What's going on, y'all? Hope y'all having a good morning. I'm once again in the car driving, as you can probably tell by the noise of the road. With that being said, let's get into this video. But before we do that, give this a thumbs up if you like it and subscribe if you really like it. With that being said, here we go. Bob Arum double, triple, quadruple down on what he said about Terence Crawford. And he's pretty much saying in his interview right here that he gave that he's done with him. Like, he is done with him. He's washing his hands of him. He's done turned over all the promotional stuff to Todd, which I believe that the article said was his stepson. Could be his real son, but I believe it's his stepson. But yeah, he turned everything over to Todd to take care of Crawford. He's done with him. He don't want nothing to do with him. He made some statements about that he spent so much money, lost so much money on Crawford that he could have bought a house in Beverly Hills. That may or may not be true. He was also mad that during the Lomachenko-Lopez fight, he was saying that promotion could have been done, but Terence Crawford sat on a contract for 2 weeks and it messed up promotion. Now, I couldn't tell in the article if it was saying that they messed up promotion that could have been put into Lomachenko, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense. I'm thinking that he was saying that he messed up promotion that they could have ran for Crawford during that fight because they would not sign the contract. And he pretty much said that he goes into, it's not promoting things until it's solidified. He doesn't want to have to promote something, then it get renegotiated, then re-promoted. So that was part of it. He goes in and once again, he talks about how good Terence Crawford is of a fighter, and he compares him to an opera singer. And what he been said right here is what I've been saying on other channels. He said, you could have the best opera singer in the world, but if nobody goes to the opera house, then it can't stay in business. It doesn't matter how good the opera singer is if you can't get fans into the opera house. And that's what it is. And that's what I've been saying on other channels. Like, I don't think people understand that when it comes to finances, right? It doesn't matter how good you are at something. If you can't put asses in seats, you don't deserve the money. That's where the money comes from. I always bring up Adrian Broner because Adrian Broner always makes a massive amount of money. Even though he doesn't win fights anymore, he's entertaining. People pay to see him lose because in a sense, that's what they're doing. They go in there, they know he's going to lose. People hope that there's a flash in the pot of what it used to be, but you never see it. He just goes in there, Philly shells, doesn't throw punches, and gets beat on the scorecards. That's Adrian Broner. But he makes a lot of money. He generates a lot of money when he fights because he knows how to promote himself. And I'm not saying Bud Crawford has to be a bad guy, has to do dumb stuff, because you got somebody like AJ who doesn't do that, who's the highest paid boxer in boxing. So you don't have to go the bad guy route. But you got to have some type of personality. There's got to be something to you. And whenever I listen to Bud Crawford talk, it's like a dead field mouse. Like, he has no personality, in interviews at least. And when he talks, he's very timid. He's very soft-spoken. And I'm not saying in real life that he's timid and he's soft, because he's not. He's a great fighter, my pound-for-pound number one. But when he gives interviews, he sounds very unconfident in what he's about to say. It's just the illusion he gives off. It's not true. We all know that he is a confident fighter. We all know that, at least in my opinion, he's the number one pound for pound. And people will argue, well, who's the best welterweight, him or Errol Spence? And I still say Bud. Even though Errol Spence technically has had harder fights, fought more top-tier fighters, I think coming from 2 weight divisions below, being undisputed, coming up to the 3rd weight division, getting a title in that division, you can't really argue the history of how good that fighter is. And you can't really use the argument, well, he's not as good at welterweight because he hasn't fought nobody. But the thing that you got to look at is the people that he has fought, he's knocked them all out. So it's not really a valid argument because of the way that he's been dominant. Whether you like it or not, Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao. I thought Manny Pacquiao won the fight, but it was a close fight. It was a very close fight, and there was times when Jeff Horn was manhandling Manny Pacquiao. And I don't mean in the sense of he was outboxing him, he was beating him up. I mean, he was literally manhandling him by just using his strength of his body and wrestling him around the ring. Now, that's not how you win boxing, but my point is this. When Jeff Horn got in there with Terence Crawford, Jeff Horn not only got beat up, but he got manhandled. He looked to be the much weaker man when they were in the clinch. There wasn't an aspect of that fight that he had any advantage over Terence. And Terence battered him. And that's the thing. As good as Terence Crawford is, and as much confidence as he has in that ring, when he sits down and talks with people, it all goes away. It's like he's very nervous to talk. He's very nervous to get out what he wants to really say, or he's hesitant to talk like he wants to talk. Because I can put it like this. When you see Terence Crawford, whether it be play ping pong against Maloney, whether it be doing the face-off and he starts talking, you hear a different side of him. You see the competitor come out in him. You hear overwhelming confidence when he's in somebody else's face. But when he's not in somebody else's face, it just like fades away. And I don't know why. It's weird. But here's the thing, to get back to the point. You have got to be interesting. I could bring up another fighter who was pure trash, that when they were fighting, they made, I believe they were the highest paid person in their sport. And that was Chael Sonnen in UFC, or MMA if you want to call it that. He could not win a big fight to save his life, but he could talk his motherfucking self up. He could talk himself up, and people would pay to watch him lose, because that's what he did. Just like Broner, he would lose. But he made the most money because of the way he sold himself. That's the thing. Terence Crawford does not sell himself. There's nothing interesting about him when you hear him talk. And I'm not saying in real life there's nothing interesting about him, but when he gives interviews, he's just not interesting. And I believe that's his biggest downfall. Now, I was on UGC Flames channel, aka Black, and they were talking about him. And I was like, yo, Crawford's out of his mind if he thinks he deserves a 60-40 split with Errol Spence. Because he doesn't. Bob Arum also brought that up in the interview. Because he doesn't, like, he's done one pay-per-view, never been back on pay-per-view. His pay-per-view did half the numbers that Errol Spence's pay-per-views have done. I believe Errol Spence has had 2 pay-per-views. I think this is his 3rd one coming up. Both pay-per-views, I believe, did over 300,000. And I want to say Terence did somewhere in between 120 to 150,000 buys. So, and then right after that, he was pulled right off a pay-per-view. Now, I'm not saying 300,000 buys is a huge pay-per-view star, because it's really not. But what it is somebody more successful and somebody showing that they can get more fans to buy their fights when it comes financially. And that's what it comes down to. And Bob Arum is right. He said for the type of money that these guys are going to be looking for, there's no money in the pot. And I'm not going to lose any more money on Terence Crawford. I'm not going to do it. He also said that if Al Heyman wants to put up all the money, he can do that. He said another thing, too, with 90-10 split, 80-20 split. And I'm not quite sure how he worded it, because I was reading it, so I really couldn't tell like how it was being worded. But my confusion was, I didn't know if he was talking about the winner should get 90%, and the loser should get 10, or the winner should get 80%, and the loser should get 20%, or if he was talking about the promotional companies should split the money. Like if Top Rank's fighter Terence Crawford beat PBC's fighter Al Heyman, then Terence should get, Top Rank should get 80 to 90% of the money, and then split it up however they see splitting it up. Like that's where I was confused about. Because if that be the case, there's not going to be a lot of money in there for the fighters. He was also talking about with Corona, he doesn't see pay-per-views being that successful. He was saying he saw thousands and thousands of people at food banks, and that, you know, people might not be willing to be 10, 12 people in a house to watch a fight. That the restaurants, they make up $3 to $5 million, and the bars and restaurants can't even buy the fights right now because of Corona and host a bunch of people. So it was like, you're going to lose $3 to $5 million there. You're going to pick up another all together, it was about $10 million for the gate, he was saying, because he showed where all the different money, it was like $3 million here, $4 million there, etc., where it all added up, and I believe it added up to $10 million if I remember correctly. So, I mean, you're looking at, just off that alone, go with the high numbers, you're looking at $15 million already negative from what you would normally have, and if you go with the low numbers, say $7 million for the gate, $3 million for the pay-per-view from the restaurants, you're already negative $10 million. So he was saying for what the guys are going to be asking for, the fight's just not feasible. And he's not going to lose any more money. And his main thing, his main contention with Terence Crawford was the fact that Terence Crawford released all the lawyer stuff to the public. He was saying that he could have done that behind closed doors. They could have settled it like men. They could have talked about it one-on-one without anybody knowing. But because he went public with it, he's done with them. He's washing his hands of them. Now, to get back to what I was saying earlier about being interesting, again, I do agree, and I said this on other channels before I made this video. If you cannot be interesting, then people are not going to pay to see you fight. And that's the thing. Sometimes it goes past fighting. Muhammad Ali, he stood for something. But even before that, you know, he had all his little catchphrases and sayings that he would say. He would talk about that, oh, he's too ugly. You need a pretty champion like me. Talked about what? He could be in and out of the bed. Like he could hit a light switch and be in the bed before the light turned off. Clever stuff like that. Tyson Fury does dumb stuff. Like singing, what was that song? Drove my Chevy to the levee before the levee was dry. Bye Bye Miss American Pie. He was singing that in the ring, doing dumb stuff. He's sung before. And I'm not going to the shit talking factor because I know Crawford's not that type of person until he's face to face with somebody, and he doesn't need to be. But you gotta have something that sets you apart from other people. You have to. There has got to be something different about you. There's got to be something that captivates people other than just what you do. Because unfortunately for boxing, it is a dying sport. Boxing doesn't get the airtime that baseball does, that football does, that the NBA does, that even NHL does. Even golf gets more airtime than boxing. And MMA in America is definitely, UFC definitely is getting more airtime because their sport is growing at a very quick rate while boxing is still declining. I don't think boxing's ever come out of the decline. It's been declining since what, the 90s? The late 90s? Early 2000s? So we're not talking about like it's just starting to decline. It's been declining. Yes, there's still a lot of money in boxing. Yes, fighters can be very successful in boxing. But it's not where they're at now. It's the trend of where they're going that you've got to look at. And that's the thing about it. To come back, Terence Crawford is by far, in my opinion, the best fighter. People could argue with me all day. That's cool. You can have your opinion. I have mine. There's nothing that anybody's going to tell me that's going to make me change my mind that Crawford is not the best. Because he is, in my opinion. I've been saying it for 2.5 years. I've always had him over Lomachenko. And that's the thing. I've always had him over Canelo as well. Like, the bottom line is the dude is talented beyond anybody around him. I believe he is that special type of fighter. But he has got to find a way to sell himself or he's not going to be worth what he's asking for. And I don't believe that he is, especially not a 60-40 split. Whether you like Earl Spence Jr. or not, whether you can listen to him talk or not, he's still got more personality than Bud when he gives interviews. Like, some people be like, oh, he talks slow. It doesn't matter. Like, he makes little jokes. Like, I'll give a prime example. Whenever he was giving his last interview that I saw, the interviewer from, I believe it was Fight Hype, asked him, so what do you think about Bob Arum and Terence Crawford right now? And he was like, oh, that's a better fight. The guy was like, what's a better fight? He's like, that's a better fight. What's a better fight? The fight between Crawford and Bob Arum is a better fight. Meaning that that's a more interesting fight than him versus Spence because Spence believes he'll beat him easily. Like, he says little things, and you might be like, oh, that's not that funny. But it kind of is. And there's other things that he says. Like, for instance, I was telling Black this. I don't think he knew about it. But, Kel Brooks' big thing was chocolate brownies, right? Well, after Spence beat Kel Brook, he took a video of himself eating chocolate brownies. There's little things that you can do that you don't have to be overly disrespectful, but you can say things that set yourself apart. Like, I thought the chocolate brownie thing was funny as shit. I'm not gonna lie. But I don't know. I don't know what Terence needs to do, but he's got to do something. I think that they came up with a good idea where they should just follow him with a camera and have him being competitive. Whether it's playing Madden, NBA 2K, whether it's him playing pool. Hell, for me, being that my channel is starting to show working out again or weightlifting again, show him in the gym. The dude is incredibly strong. He released a video, or at least a picture of him deadlifting 500 pounds. Now, I'm not sure if he was actually deadlifting 500 pounds or doing a rack pull of 500 pounds. But either way, it's impressive for a guy who's probably only about 160 pounds, 165 pounds outside of fight competition. It's impressive. It's impressive. Show him lifting weights. Show him doing things that are impressive. You've got to find a niche for him to fall into so people will be captivated, so there's something about him that fans can latch on to. Because when your sport is declining, you've got to do more than just box. You've got to. And that's the thing about it. I think that's what he needs to do as far as him and Bob Arum go, to get back to the point of this. I can understand both guys. I can understand it from both guys, Bob feels wronged that Terence went out publicly with the lawyer stuff, and Terence feels wrong that Bob talked all that stuff. From the way that Terence Crawford was talking on the Zone, it sounded like that he was going to stay with Top Rank, but after Bob Arum put this out, I don't know if he is or isn't. I really do not know, but I do know that it sounds like Bob Arum is not trying to push the Errol Spence fight, at least right now, and he's not going to promote it to make it happen, because as his words said, he's tired of losing money, and he just sees it as losing money. It's just money lost in the pot. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I know I've been rambling. I like to ramble while I drive to work. Easiest way to put these videos out. So again, if you made it to the very end, hit up the comment section. I always respond. Let me know, what do y'all think Terence should do? Do y'all think I'm wrong? Do y'all think Terence is interesting? Or do y'all think whenever he gives his interviews, he comes off very boring like I do? Again, hit up the comment section and let me know. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a good day.